here with Ramen on the GODSEND Podcast, and we're just talking a bit about my story and some topics like reflecting as well as intentionality and the fruits of the Spirit, and hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Five, four, three, two, Hana. All right. Hello, and welcome to the GODSEND Podcast. I'm your host, Ramen Chi, and on today's podcast episode, I have the pleasure of bringing on someone that I have actually known for quite some time, and fortunately, we have been able to reconnect. He is the co-founder and chef of KOBUNGA Grill in USC Village in Southern California, here at LA, where we're located, and that man is Steven Cho.
Hey,
hello,
what's up,
Steven?
What's up, guys?
Thank you for coming on. So if you don't mind, how are you, first of all, today?
Good.
Doing good.
Yeah.
Thank you again for allowing us to just use your space. It's beautiful here, as you guys will see on the video version, but yeah, thank you again. So I guess we won't waste any time. We'll get right into it. Do you mind just taking us back to the start, I guess, how you grew up and just whatnot, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Born and raised in La Cañada, and that's where, our journey began.
Yep.
Went to the same elementary schools, middle school, high school.
Cougars.
It's kind of crazy. We've technically known each other since kindergarten.
For reals, bro.
And I can only say that for you and James Park.
Wow, an AK.
Oh, really?
AK, dude.
I forgot.
And Joanne Chong. Sorry, man. I don't want to leave out.
Well, at least people who I talk to.
Who you talk to.
You, AK, and then James Park.
Sorry. By the way, does James Park still have that buzzed head, bro? He's still rocking that?
No. He has a ponytail now.
Don't lie, bro.
Yeah.
Wow.
He has a huge,
just like long,
beautiful
Jesus
mane
hair.
of hair. Yeah, it's honestly, he has Jesus hair. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's nuts. I gotta see him. But anyway, back to you. So yeah, okay, grew up. Wow,
Yeah.
you can only name that many people. You're right, actually. Now that I think about it, but that's nuts.
But born and raised La Cañada, went out to school in the East Coast at NYU, and then after graduating, came back home, started working back home in LA because I missed family and just really just being in Southern California. Can't beat the weather, can't beat the space. People complain about traffic, but I actually love driving.
Oh, really? Why?
Just turn on a podcast, listen to music.
For sure, no
it's
doubt.
kind of your chill space. Something actually I do want to get into later, but which is one thing that I do, side topic, I do love about driving is you get time to yourself and you get time for reflection. And I think that's something that's really important in just today's
daily life today too, especially,
something that we don't really talk about doing. But yeah, I have been back home in LA since 2013. Went from working at the SLS Hotel in Beverly Hills. I was part of the food and beverage management team there, and I worked there for about a year and a half, and then I quit to start cooking on my own, start doing pop-ups and catering, and that's when I joined up with Ramen at Little Meats LA, and I did that for about a year and a half as well, and then I left that to join John, my business partner, with KOBUNGA. And we've been in operation for a couple of years now. We opened officially in March 2 years ago in 2018 at the USC Village, and then So it's been 2.5 years now that we've been open, and we have a third location. We have a second location coming up
Awesome.
in Silver Lake, and that's hopefully we're gonna open up in the coming months.
Knock on.
Yeah.
We don't got wood, but this little piece of wood right here. But
Yeah.
for sure, man. Because COVID obviously delayed.
Yeah,
Russia.
COVID just delayed kind of everything.
And all the restaurant businesses, not like in general, right, are just suffering from that.
Yeah,
and
it's just everyone's kind of just waiting until everything dies down, and we're just waiting with abated breath. Just, is it going to return back to normal?
Seriously.
We'll see. But at the same time, the restaurant industry, just talking about that specifically, already has taken a hit, right? We're already hearing news of, even just for us Koreans, you have something as historic as Tongilchang closing down. That's
local
where
places, man. These OG spots.
Yeah, the OG, because Tongilchang is the OG of OG.
For our like parents' generation, when they came to LA and stuff.
That's where Korean presidents who would come to America went to eat Korean food, because that was not only like one of the few places, but it was the place to go.
Quality,
for Korean food in Los Angeles. So like you take something like that's historical to our community, Korean Americans in LA, and that's closing down because of, obviously there's probably multitude of reasons, but obviously COVID had a huge part in that.
I mean, then if you don't mind, if we can backtrack, then what if you had to, tell us or describe KOBUNGA, right? As like, if you had to compare it to something, or if you had to sum it up in a way that's kind of simplified for us to, how would you do that?
Yeah. So my partner John, he really wanted to create a fast casual concept that was true to who he was, or who he is, which is a Korean American. And so for us growing up in America, we don't have this sort of pride growing up with our food, because a lot of us have this lunchbox moment, as they call it, where we would bring Asian food into elementary school, and all the other kids are like, yuck, what is that? Like,
smell and all that, right?
Yeah, exactly. That smells. Get that away from me. And then we go to our parents, demanding sandwiches and Lunchables, and we're sort of, shunned and shamed of our food at that point as kids.
Foolish kids we were, man.
But then when we get to college and we become young adults, and now that America has been embracing a lot more ethnic cuisine,
definitely,
like, people are now understanding what fermentation is and what probiotics are. So kimchi is a huge thing. And then just, of course, the meat lovers love Korean barbecue.
Of course.
And also part of that is the Korean wave, right? You have K-pop with BTS and Big Bang from back in the day. And you have Korean cosmetics, dramas,
The exposure's there,
Yeah, Netflix is huge right now with Korean dramas and getting a new audience for that. And you have Korean cars, Hyundai, Kia.
Of course, Samsungs, right?
And then obviously you have the technology with Samsung, LG blowing up. And it's kind of what my partner and I talk about is it's very similar to the Japanese explosion couple decades ago, right?
Right, man, with Sony and everything.
With Sony, Toyota, Honda, sushi, Dragon Ball Z anime.
Oh my gosh, people don't realize. Yeah, that thing is Japanese.
And then Rocky with Teppanyaki with Benihana. He literally rode the Japanese explosion in America, and he became sort of the icon of that.
Definitely.
So Korea's just a couple decades behind, and that's one just due to historical, just all the wars Korea has gone through, and just all the setbacks that Korea as a nation has gone through, and then also just geographically we're further away. So we are trying to create Korean barbecue in a fast casual setting. And so what are sort of the pain points of Korean barbecue today? It's it's time consuming, it's expensive, and you come out smelling, very smoky. And a lot of times the staff doesn't speak English very well. And so for us, we're trying to create something more modern. So English speaking staff, English menu, of course, a great price point with, the food that comes out very quickly in a fast casual setting. So if we tackle all that, you have delicious, Korean food, Korean barbecue in just a couple minutes, and you can just take it home or eat it there and super quickly. And it's honestly what America has been driving towards. They want a little more upscale than just fast food like McDonald's, but they don't want to go all the way to paying, $30-$40 for an entree at a sit-down restaurant.
Yeah, especially for lunch, right? At that, yeah.
Exactly. So fast casual has exploded across the nation in terms of that food segment.
Yeah, like Chipotle and whatnot, right? And like Panera,
Shake Shack, Panera, Blaze Pizza.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
All these places. It's not as cheap as, McDonald's or KFC, Burger King, what have you.
Not at all.
But, you're seeing a lot more chef-driven, more hospitality-driven places, but you still get your food very quickly and at a great price point.
And it's made all in-house, right?
Yeah, so we marinate all our meats. We cook all our meats in-house. We make our own kimchi. We make every single sauce. Our Korean barbecue sauce, our sweet and spicy KOBUNGA sauce for our pork belly. Make all the marinades. We make our, even for the bulgogi, we even, make every single part of that, including we make this onion sugar that goes into our recipes.
Oh my gosh.
And, every single thing is made in-house.
So you're exactly what you said. It's modernizing the Korean dishes and just Korean food in general for a population, or just to be able to expose it to the general population, right? In a manner that is that they can embrace, right? Or try out.
I mean, I'd say we're modernizing just the fast casual concept. We've modernized with the fast casual concept, but our food is actually pretty traditional. I think the only fun things we do are more like the fried chicken sandwich, things like that.
To try that.
Like our Korean fried chicken sandwich. That's just
crazy
sort of
now.
that's just a fun thing to do.
Definitely twist.
Yeah, that as a Korean American, that's the American side that comes out, right?
Definitely.
We love Koreans love fried chicken. Americans love burgers.
Yep.
I grew up on McDonald's, right, and In-N-Out.
Here.
So you combine the two, you get the spicy and sweet, tangy, Korean gochujang sort of fried chicken sauce with a great fried chicken, some Korean pickles, and then in a burger bun, and it's
my goodness gracious,
perfect combo.
Making me freaking hungry, bro. Yeah. But anyway, so then let's kind of backtrack a little bit more, if you don't mind. So you mentioned growing up, you went to NYU, right? You focused on hospitality, right? Then where did that I guess that, because you were always, did that cooking fever or that cooking desire or just food in general, that interest, where did that stem from? Was it younger, even before college, or how was how did that kind of
looking back on it, it's a pretty crazy story.
Really?
That I even thought about going into hospitality as a profession. My scope of the world was very small growing up.
Of course.
And we call it, the La Cañada bubble, right? Yep. We're very sheltered up towards the valley. Not necessarily, I guess it's not really the valley, but we are right underneath a mountain range.
Technically, yeah.
Right?
So it's
figuratively and literally we are sheltered. Yeah. So the most I knew about the food world was either Korean food, going out to Korean restaurants, or my mom or grandma's cooking, right? Korean food, and then fast food. That's it. The fast food we had in La Cañada, McDonald's and stuff, or round table pizza.
Round table pizza, man. Come on now. And then the Panda
that's
opened up later.
Yeah. Panda Express, exactly. we used to go there like almost every day for lunch.
Yeah.
So that was my food spectrum growing up, right?
See, man.
Very, very limited. And I didn't even know that it could be expanded.
Yeah.
So in junior year of high school, my sister was in college. She was studying abroad in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And for my birthday, my parents bought me a plane ticket out to visit her. And kind of just to have me see the world.
Awesome.
And just kind of grow, like be able to expose myself to what is out there.
Of course.
Right? Because at the time, what they were seeing was me playing video games, hanging out with friends, just doing, just okay
Typical,
in school, right?
Yeah.
And so I went, had this amazing time with my sister. She took me to, Venice. She took me all over Florence, where she was in Firenze.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't correctly.
I can't say it correctly either. But
gelato, right? They're known for gelato too, right? Oh my god. Sorry. Okay, keep going. Yeah. Wow, you went to a couple places in Italy,
yeah.
Right? Okay.
So that experience as a whole was pretty amazing. But what really, really sort of sparked something in me was this one experience at a restaurant called Mario's that she took me to. It was run, 3-generation restaurant. Grandma's cooking in the back. The mom is waiting tables. The son is at the cashier.
Wow.
Right?
So complete family business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for that restaurant, it's like a really small, mom and pop place, and they change the food every single day. So I guess you don't really know what you're getting until you go there, right?
Wow.
And the day that I went, they did a very classic ragu bolognese. Very classic Italian just meat, tomato,
pasta.
And to me, that was so mind-blowing. I was like, how can food be this delicious?
For something so simple, right?
Exactly. And I had never had Italian food really growing up. Because why would I? My parents were just feeding me
pizza,
rice. Like, pizza was the extent of my Italian, food knowledge.
Yeah, exposure, yeah. But
and
majority was obviously Korean.
Yeah, it was majority Korean food. And rice, fish, kimchi.
Yeah.
Right?
Bob, yeah.
And that was so life-changing, life-altering to have eaten that dish that could be so delicious. I started thinking about, wow, I want to, start exploring food more. And so, as I'm reflecting upon all this on my way back home, one weird thing about Europe is they force you to take multiple flights to get back home to America.
There's no direct.
There's no direct because I think it has to do with tourism. They want to encourage you to visit other countries.
Makes
so
sense.
From Italy, I had to go to Germany, and then from Germany, I had to go back to America.
Wow.
And so when I got to Germany, at the Frankfurt airport, the airplane I was supposed to take, the engine broke down. And so we're just waiting and waiting for hours. And what they eventually do is, because this is also, actually, no, it was, so my sister just booked the cheapest flight, obviously, to save money for my parents.
Yeah.
And it was Air India. And although it was like this super cheap commercial flight, they put all of us in this 5-star business hotel near the airport.
Oof.
I think it's called like the Steisenberger or something.
Jeez. But it was nice.
Yeah. So as what am I, 16, 17 years old, I get put in this 5-star hotel with no money left, right? Because I don't have a credit card to my name, right?
You're still in you're a high school kid, man.
I'm in high school.
Yeah.
I'm in high school. And then I spent all the cash I had in Italy buying presents for my grandparents, my your
family and whatnot,
my family and everybody, and just spending money on food and stuff. And funny story, actually.
I don't know what I would do, but yeah, okay.
This is so funny. If Christian, you're listening out there, Christian Lee. I in Italy was the first time I ever saw dirty magazines like out in public. And I remember buying a dirty magazine for Christian Lee. So Mambogi, if you're listening out there.
Oh my!
I don't know if you remember that.
Man. He asked you to do that, or
no,
what,
no, 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 no.
I just. Oh man, that's hilarious!
Yeah.
I cannot wait to ask him about that for sure.
Yeah.
And so you're at the hotel,
so
right?
I'm at the hotel, and like all I can do is just sit in the lobby or just be in the hotel room, right? Because I don't have money to go out or anything.
Of course.
So I'm just stuck there, and just sitting in the lobby watching everybody interact with the employees. I'm just seeing this level of service and this level of hospitality, and that really sort of combined with what I was thinking about and reflecting on in the journey to Italy about the food. And so I was like, this industry is what I'm very interested in for a career in life.
Of course.
I want to work in a hotel. I want to work in food.
See.
And I want to see what fine dining is all about. And so I was stuck at the hotel for like 24 hours. And then they got us another flight out after that. And after that, I applied to NYU for hotel management. Hotel and tourism management is the official title of my major,
degree,
my degree. But yeah, that is how I was first introduced to what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, working in what we call the hospitality industry. And hospitality includes hotels, tourism, restaurants.
Food and beverage, that kind of catering, all that. Wow. Then, so you get to New York, right? And then you're majoring in hotel management and whatnot, and you end up working for SLS. So how did you branch off? How did you decide to leave corporate, essentially, right? That corporate world, because you were doing well. Like you were like, I'm ready to climb the ladder and whatnot. Right?
Exactly. Coming out of NYU, I worked at restaurants, but I also did. I was very lucky enough to do a food and beverage internship at the Ritz-Carlton Central Park. I mean, one of the best hotels in Manhattan, right?
Iconic, yeah.
And so I got to see also, part of that was the restaurant opening. And just being able to experience all that, I definitely knew I wanted to work in food and beverage in the hotel industry. So when I was about to graduate, I started doing interviews. I got a acceptance into a food and beverage manager in training position at the SLS Hotel in Beverly Hills. And at the time, it was a Starwood property. So I interviewed with Starwood Corporate. And they connected me to the SLS Hotel. And once I started working there, I worked there for about 1.5 years as a manager in training, and then I became a supervisor.
Just moving up, yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's what I truly thought I was going to be doing. And I even was thinking about moving to Asia and working in the hotel industry there, in Japan or Korea. Just because also I loved living out there. I did a study abroad in Japan.
Oh, really?
I've done a study abroad
Tokyo?
in China. Tokyo,
Osaka
Beijing, and then Shanghai.
Wow. Okay, if you don't mind me asking, out of those three, which one did you enjoy or would you recommend?
I mean, for me, I love Japan. Like, as a Korean, it kind of
confliction.
It conflicts so much, right?
Yeah.
You know,
it's truth though. It's facts.
There's so much, obviously,
history,
right there. Sorrowful, and there's just so much history. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the food culture in Japan,
can't deny it.
You can't deny it. You can't deny. And unfortunately, it's obviously Japan historically has had a lot of wars between its own clans, but nothing in terms of a modern war has hit their shores besides the two, obviously, bombs that America dropped after World War II. Yeah. But, for example, Korea has almost no historical, like just from a tourism standpoint, has barely any tourist attractions, if you will, like
You're right.
and historical landmarks or just any sort of cultural, not identity. Obviously, we have a very strong cultural identity, but like very cultural markings, I would say.
Like wonders of the world, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's not only just these like historical landmarks and monuments. It's also like we don't have a lot of our own history recordings because it was burned down. It was, we were taken over by...
A lot of it is missing, yeah, I see what you mean.
2 different countries over our lifespan, right? And we also had a civil war...
Within ourselves, yeah.
Within ourselves, yeah. And so, Japan hasn't had that, and so they have such a... From just a very objective view, they have an amazing tourism landscape, right? So many cultural identities and markings, and obviously with that, the food culture has thrived and survived, and
because of that rich history. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you sum it up in a phrase, they have a rich history. Korea does too, but we don't have any records. We don't have a lot of records.
It's patchy, if that makes sense.
And that's just it's obviously so sad as Koreans, but that's also one part about why I can appreciate America and why I love Americana. Like growing up, I always dreamt of driving a Chevy.
That American muscle.
Like that Mustang, that was my dream car for a while. And I loved sort of that Americana. And so like, I feel like it's very ethereal. There's no like tangible way to kind of put it. But I guess if you put it into just one phrase, it's like a rich history Japan has. And I just appreciate that just objectively.
Definitely, no. Same.
Same thing with America. Like it's a very short history as a nation, but we have such a strong and rich history and identity.
Yeah, and that pride in general.
Yeah.
Man.
And so, like, if America has that Americana, Japan just has its own thing with food and just how modern it is. If you go to Tokyo, just how amazing everything is, from the subway systems to just how clean. Yeah, it's a vibe.
It's a vibe.
That's how
Sorry to cut you off, but like
that's how the kids say it, right?
How would you sum it up, right?
Yeah.
And it's such a distinct vibe, right?
Yeah.
That's the important thing, right? And that's based, like you said, on their culture and their history and whatnot, and it translates into everything, right? They're essentially, for some people, they're the trendsetters, right? You can even say, right, for certain people that look to them and whatnot.
And so that's why I wanted to go work in Japan or Korea. Obviously Korea's food scene today is amazing.
Next level, man.
Yeah. And but I think when I studied abroad in Japan, I was able to really immerse myself in its culture and in just daily life as well, and I really enjoyed it. And so recently, last year, my wife and I also took a 2-week trip, and we went all over Japan as well. Ooh. Taking the Shinkansen, taking the train all over.
That was so dope. Because I've spoken to other people. We'll touch on your wife and whatnot, but in that part. But then in Japan, right? Out of the things you've like eaten there, right? Is it really sushi? Like, is sushi really like the best thing? Is it really that different? Like, I'm sorry if I'm disrespecting anyone or like disrespecting you, but just from from a neutral or like a person who's not fully aware of like the actual difference in taste and just quality and whatnot and just execution.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's any different, because it can be the same here.
Yeah.
Because we can, like any sushi chef can also get the same type of fish and stuff from and they already do. They fly it over from the Tsukiji fish market. Or I guess
they changed it, right? They moved.
It's the I forget the name, Toyo something.
I have no idea, but
it's
you're right.
The new fish market.
They moved, yeah.
And so technically speaking, anybody can, with the right skills, recreate any sushi meal you get in Japan.
Yeah.
To be honest, like you can just import all the same ingredients, even like the amazing rice that some farmers have out in Japan.
Would you say, Stephen, that it's the experience that truly separates it?
I wouldn't say it's the experience. It's just the amount of skill out there. That's why it's so good.
Yeah,
because
Japanese are so disciplined to their craft. Right?
Mm-hmm. And there's just so many sushi chefs out there. So who I've just trained for so many years underneath, those masters.
Like Jiro.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I mean, for me, my love was actually ramen.
Oh, noodles.
I love Japanese ramen.
Oh, yeah.
So with that being said, when I left the SLS after working, as a supervisor I was there for I helped with banquets and catering, room service, mini bar, our 3-meal-a-day restaurant, Tress, and our rooftop pool, which we actually ran like a day club, like a Vegas day club. It was crazy. Yeah, some weekends we do like tens of thousands of dollars just in alcohol. It's crazy.
My goodness.
And then we would do like cabana rentals. We had celebrities there. I met Reggie Bush.
Word.
Yeah.
The Reggie Bush, man.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I met Reggie Bush. So many celebrities. Oh, Thierry Henry.
Come on, bro.
The French
footballer. If you guys don't know. Come on, man.
There's so many celebrities.
So, okay, those were one of the perks then, right? So if I were to ask
No,
you,
I mean, for me, it wasn't like, it was cool seeing them, but then it's not like, for me, I'm just doing a job.
Yeah, it's
right?
still your job.
Yeah, I'm just there to serve whoever, right? I would treat them the same as I would treat any other customer, right?
I think that's awesome that you say that. Then how was it then working there? Because you essentially, you ultimately left there, we know that, right? But how was it before you left? Like, was it like that bad, or was it good? Like, did that kind of lead to you leaving, or like what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I loved being there. I loved just being able to get that experience working with other people to serve others.
Uh-huh.
At the end of the day, that's what hospitality is, right? You're serving somebody, and then obviously with a team. Like whether it's a restaurant, anywhere else, you have your coworkers, right?
Yeah.
And so you're working with somebody else to serve someone else. And I love just being a part of that. I love serving the guest at the end of the day. But for me, I started cooking a lot more while I was working. I started cooking my own ramen, like making 18-hour broths, like leaving it on the stove, just simmering for a long period of time. I stink up my parents' house, like boiling pig's feet, right? to make tonkotsu ramen.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is during your free time too,
this
right?
This is during my off days, right? And so I was also then slowly getting into Texas style barbecue.
Yep.
And I realized while I'm young, why can't I put these 18-hour day shifts that I'm working for someone else at this hotel into myself? Like, what would happen if I poured 18 hours a day for myself? And that thought kept being pervasive in my mind. And
no doubt.
Ultimately it came down to, I want to cook with my hands. I want to serve somebody with my own hands. And so that combined with me loving ramen and barbecue, I wanted to do Texas-style barbecue with Japanese ramen. And I wanted to create my own restaurant with that as the concept.
So that was actually the first?
That was the first iteration of what, restaurant I wanted to create. That's cool. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I just wanted a restaurant, period. Of course. Right? I just, in its simplest form, I just wanted to serve somebody.
Wow.
Like a space to serve someone, right? And the food that I first thought about was Japanese ramen with Texas-style barbecue.
Just things you love, pretty much.
Yeah, things I love.
Plain and simple.
And with that mindset, I quit. I started just experimenting on my own a lot more. And through that process, during that time, I eventually met, or I reconnected really with the old family friend, Ramen, who was starting up Little Meats LA. And it was an underground supper club that he was starting. And so I joined up with him, and we did these awesome dinners. Like, we started off pretty small, like 30 people, but we ended up doing even these big dinner, like 50, 60 people at this collaboration we did at the Container Yard in the Arts District.
Mm-hmm.
So we were doing these awesome dinners. We had multiple chefs, so we had like a rotating group of chefs.
That's sick.
And, you know, Robin created Little Meats to be a platform for these chefs who wanted to, or he wanted them to speak for themselves, right? Because as a line cook, you don't really get an opportunity to cook for yourself.
No.
You don't get an opportunity to really cook for others. In order to create a restaurant, right, you have to have X amount of money and capital to even have someone try that food for the first time, right?
Yeah.
So you have to invest all this money just to have one person, like, as a customer, not even just your friend or somebody like that.
It's not possible for the average line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if these guys don't have a voice, you know, let's create that. And so that's what Robin created with Little Meats. And I was also one of the rotating chefs, and I got to do Texas style barbecue. And through that, I met John, my business partner for KOBUNGA, and he actually left the world of finance. Like, he graduated top of the class, La Cañada, Yale.
LC, wow.
Yeah, also La Cañada, also La Cañada grad.
But what, 2 years above us, right?
Yeah, 2 years above us. So I never met him.
Uh-huh.
And he, you know, he was on top of the world in a sense. Like, he was working in finance in Manhattan, talking to some of the top CEOs of our country, right, as a hedge fund manager. And he wanted to create something more tangible in this world. And, you know, he at the time, he's just efficiently allocating capital is what he says. And that is obviously a function and an amazing thing you do in this world, creating order out of chaos, right? And that's very biblical.
Biblical as well. Yeah.
It's talked about in Revolutions. It's
Revelation. It's okay. Revelation. No.
Revelation. Oh my God. I'm
okay.
such a bad Christian.
No, don't even, man. Oh, anyway, yes, Revelation.
I don't know why I said Revolution. Such a brain fart moment. In Revelations.
Yeah, pause too, but it's okay. Yeah, in Revelation.
But yeah, it's creating order out of chaos, right?
Yep.
And that's business.
Of course.
But he wanted to have more of a tangible effect in the world. And, you know, he was thinking, what can I do? I don't know how to code, but I do know food. And for him growing up or going to Yale, you know, he wanted a lot of Korean food, right? Yeah. What he grew up on. There was no accessible Korean food, Korean barbecue. And so he had this idea that let's create a fast casual Korean barbecue concept. And for us, we want to now sing the Korean barbecue gospel around the world, right?
Of course.
We want to be able to bring that experience growing up that we had to everybody and make it accessible to all Americans, to all people across the world eventually. So that's pretty much why I brought up ramen. Is my story started off with quitting my job to cook ramen.
That's crazy.
And do Texas style barbecue. But my first love of food started off with pasta. You know what's funny is now that I actually truly think about it, my love of food really, man, like
truly
the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I get to see that almost daily these days. Like, my dad, he grew up very, very poor in Korea, and they didn't have enough money for rice, right? So they had a lot of people, a lot of
at that time,
you know, Koreans after World War II.
Yep.
They had these things that the American GIs were able to bring, like, very cheaply. Yeah. One was flour, right? And so that's when, like, noodles really became something that was more mass produced instead of just being like a very specialized thing. And so they had a lot of noodles. My dad ate noodles like every day growing up. And even to this day, he could eat noodles every single day. And so now that I'm like thinking about it and reflecting on this, it's my first love of food was pasta. Like that's what kind of opened my mind to the world of food. And then it was because after going to Italy to visit my sister and have that amazing experience, I did the study abroad in Japan right before senior year of high school. So right after the trip, that inspired me to see the world
even more.
And so I was like, oh, let's go to Japan. They have this cool like language exchange, program. So I went, stayed with a homestay family.
Sick. That's dope.
And that's when I fell in love with ramen, right?
The noodle
but
consistency.
Now I'm like, holy cow, noodles, man. What is
the thing with
apple?
noodles?
Apple does not fall far from the tree.
Amen.
For reals.
Dang, man, that's awesome. So, I mean, hopefully we see some noodles or something on the menu. But anyway,
we do have noodles. We have japchae noodles.
Japchae, but I mean, like that ramen, right? Kind of pique that interest, maybe. Like look at that, take a look back at that, maybe. Okay. Anyway, no, sorry, yeah, that's for him to decide. But
no, I mean, for us, we are traditional Korean food because even some of our recipes are, for example, like John's family's recipes.
Wow.
We've used
is
incorporated. So for us, like, I think, as much as I love Japan
and noodles,
like for me, it's more of now like a mission to also like spread the Korean gospel, right?
Of course.
Spread the Korean food across the nation. It sounds like, it's very evangelical, like
soul food.
I'm going to spread the gospel.
Spread the gospel. I know, but we're talking about food. But food is biblical too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Food is the word, especially.
Breaking of the bread.
Also.
Sharing food at the table.
Communion.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I know we've like kind of fast forward through your life. Then during that time, so how, as a man of faith, right? If you guys don't know, Stephen is a Christian as well, right? How did that play a role, or did it play a role like during like your faith? Like if you look back on your life, like did it play a role in like, or how did you even come to Christ in the first place, I guess? Or were you just one of those regular people growing up like that just was thrown into Korean community, like Korean community church and whatnot?
It's interesting to think about what you're saying with, what is Jesus doing in my life, right? Like obviously thinking back, he's always been there for me, right? Amen. In every situation, he's always provided at the end of the day. That's really what it comes down to. Mm-hmm. He's always provided. So he's obviously the one who has directed me into this career path. But in those moments, faith never, for me, attributed to the decisions I made. But obviously now thinking back on it, he was there in those moments, right? He was there providing.
Yeah.
He was there saying, hey, this is what you're going to be doing, which was, here's a plane ticket to Italy. Here's a random ad from a Japanese exchange school that you're going to go to.
The seeds,
right?
Man.
Here's your sister's friend who is going to NYU and is going to tell you about the program.
Wow.
And that's what makes you go there. Here is this opportunity, right?
So the list goes on and on.
Like, exactly. The list goes on and on, right? He's provided at every single situation that he's needed me to go somewhere,
or
right?
Pivot or whatnot, right?
In order to end up at this spot, right? Wow. And it's also interesting. I'm trying to tie this all in together with what is, Jesus currently doing in my life. And it's tough because as a Christian born and raised in the church, I feel like a lot of us have this same journey of just these highs and lows where you have this hunger for Jesus and at times it just fades away and you get so busy with school, you get so busy with work, so many things going on in your personal life, right? And that hunger just fades. And obviously for us, we always have it in the back of our mind, but then in a part of it comes out as like guilt or shame.
Yeah, no
That's
doubt.
a huge part of, I feel like, the Korean Christian community. And as kids, that's kind of what we're sort of ingrained into us. Like, oh, you didn't read your Bible today? You didn't pray? You know, like, why?
You didn't serve at church.
Yeah, you didn't serve at church.
Didn't go to church. Or
Like, I remember one time with, you know, AK, because we went to the same church growing up.
Young Nug, yeah.
We go to the internet cafe, the PC Bang, across the street and play Counter-Strike a lot.
Oh my gosh, PC Bang across the street from church. That's so hilarious, man.
And when our parents found out, they're so mad, right?
Dude, I never understood that though. Come on, like honestly. Like, did you ever get flack for reading Harry Potter?
Yeah.
You heard about that.
Yeah.
Oh, you did get flack.
Exactly.
Yo, my parents came out of nowhere on that. Like, my tutor
yeah.
recommended that at first, and they were all down, and then they go to church
I
one
mean,
day.
yeah, that's just like a whole nother topic.
Yeah, sorry to go off tangent, but yeah.
I mean, like most older generations, like they didn't understand what fake news was growing up, right? And so if one person said something, they just took it at face value. And so that rumor went around all the churches saying Harry Potter was a demonic
icon, right? Or some,
Yeah, there was like secret messages and like all that stuff. And it was But for me, you know, I loved reading Harry Potter. I read it multiple times, right? Everybody.
Back to back,
But yeah, I think just going back to growing up in the church,
that
right?
ties into it.
We always I'm very, very thankful. I've always, you know, taken this to heart. Someone, you know, on a mission trip once told me, like, I'm really jealous of you who was born into the church and you knew Jesus from day one. From somebody who found Jesus at rock bottom.
So completely different path. Yeah.
So completely different path, and like because he was doing a testimony, and that was one of the things that really resonated with me, and I still think about to this day is like he was jealous of me having been born in the church, and when I reflect on that every so often, it's truly humbling because I take that for granted so much.
We all do, man. Right? Amen.
And so it's really hard to think about like
that question
and the hunger, like what is Jesus currently doing in my life? Because, you know, obviously this pandemic has been like a whole nother topic and issue. With like we just started cell group last week with our church, and so everyone's starting up again, and then the big topic was, you know, what have we gained and what have we lost
during this time,
and it's like it's so tough to reconcile all this that's going on with our faith and with God, but at the same time, like, you know, that question comes back, what is Jesus doing in my life? And he brought you into my life, right? He's brought cell group back into my life. He brought my church tapestry and everyone that's been a part of it. That community. And like, no matter how many times I feel like I kind of just fade away from Christianity and just get too lazy, just playing video games, or just when, you know, like past couple of years, it's just been work and putting career first over God. You know, being married, putting my wife first over God. And so during all these times, at the end of the day, it always comes back to God's presence, right? He's always there.
And recognizing that.
Right? Like, even during this time, like, during COVID, like, who knew that I would meet back up with you? You know?
For sure.
Someone I haven't seen since high school and come into my life and say, hey, I want you to talk about God. Right?
Wow. I never even thought of it like that, man.
Past couple, because
for providing that perspective. Jeez, I didn't even think about it like that.
Past couple of months, it's been not only because for me, what's been taken away in COVID is joy, and because for me, I'm such a people person.
Yeah,
like in the past couple months, I've only seen my business partner like a handful of times because he has a newborn kid, and so they have to
issues, yeah.
they have to remain safe away from COVID. And I'm at the store. I'm a more potential target to carry COVID, and so like we would see each other so much, and I still crave that relationship, right? Seeing him, talking with him, interacting, hanging out, just having fun, eating dinner together. And then obviously with my friends too, I don't get to see them. I don't get to hang out with them. I don't get to see my family as much. I haven't seen my grandma since like January, right?
Wow, man.
And just because like obviously
safety reasons.
Too. She's old. Yeah. My grandpa's old. And for me, being a people person, like joy is brought to me is like joy happens when I see people and hang out with them, talk to them, eat something with them, right? And then obviously with restaurants, we can't even go in for like
inside and
with
do that,
COVID safety measures, which obviously we have to have. So it's not that I'm angry about it. It's just what has been taken away, and it's joy. But at the same time, what have I gained?
Yeah.
I think like over time, just constant reminder that God's there, right? Like the past couple months, have been kind of depressing for me, and with that, my hunger for God has slowly faded,
Struggles.
right? Like it's so like even like with church being on YouTube and stuff, like with live streaming, it's not the same. And like for me, I haven't even been attending like the live streams. Like, sometimes I'll watch it later.
Yeah, but are you really? Yeah.
Yeah, am I paying attention? No, I'm on my phone.
Are you really intentional, right? About it.
Like past couple weeks, football's been happening, so I'm like,
does not help.
I'm like more interested in football than God, right? And so the fact of the matter is, God is now, like saying, hey, like, I want to feed you, like, and here's Ramen to force you to talk about God. And it's not even forcing. It's like, this is actually pretty awesome.
Thank you.
And obviously there was a season of me kind of just being depressed and wallowing about COVID and just not being able to see anybody. And, but God's kind of giving me this gentle reminder again, like, hey, I'm still here. Like nothing has changed about Christianity, right?
And me, right? My promise to you. Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
So, like, He's really making His presence known with you, with church, and it's pretty crazy.
He's been able to give you that reassurance and like change your perspective on COVID, right? Mm-hmm. Just in general, right?
Yeah,
that's great, man. Then if you don't mind me. If we touch on, I guess, your wife, right? You mentioned her a couple of times. Like, how did that happen, first of all? And then, obviously, I'm sure she's played a role with your faith as well, and just your career and just your life in general, right? So,
I guess
touch on that, please.
One way to truly,
because she's truly a godsend for you, right? Right. In the word,
yeah.
Saying, sorry, no pun.
I guess one way to really think about, with God is, every single time He's been a godsend, right? He's always placed these also like stories in my life, right? I had this crazy story of how I started my career, being stuck in a German, 5-star hotel near the airport, with no money, like as a 16-year-old kid. I remember I cried on the phone talking to my mom, like, because I was so scared. 16-year-old kid, bro. And then also, like, meeting my wife was such a intense, like, crazy story too. Like, we could honestly, like, just the like how we met and then how we started our relationship. Yeah. Like, I love telling that story because it's also, reflecting on it now, it's a reflection of God and what He's provided, right? Like, it could be the start of a Korean drama, right? So to begin with, I love telling this story. So this was during Little Meats days when I was doing the underground supper clubs. I was cooking outside with another chef.
Mm-hmm.
And where Little Meats was this very cool collective of work, live spaces.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a lot of creatives there, people who work as well as live there. And we're using the common area to cook. And I see this girl walking by, and she catches my attention. I'm like, oh, I've never seen her before. But I'm trying not to burn the chicken, right? I'm like focusing on the food, but in the corner of my eye, I see this girl. And I'm like, I'm trying to do both.
Too funny.
And she walks by, and then so later on, I start asking around, like, oh, do you guys know who that was?
Stuck in your mind the whole
right?
night.
And so word gets around, and I eventually find out who she was through a mutual friend. She's like, oh my gosh, that's Ed's sister. And Ed was my brother-in-law was an editor at one of the lofts, like a couple doors down, or like not a couple doors down, but a little bit away, but in the same complex. And he was like, we're all like friendly with each other, so we all know each other. And so he finds out that I was interested in his sister.
Because you didn't know about his sister.
Yeah, and like me and Ed, we just like kind of knew each other. We weren't like friends.
Like that,
yeah. And so like a couple days later, he like comes up to me. He's like, oh, so I hear you're interested in my sister. And I was like so taken aback. I'm like, I don't know if this is like a scary thing right now or like a good thing. And then he just starts laughing, and then and so like he just kind of like, I thought he just kind of brushed it off, but turned out he texted her, sending her my Instagram profile.
Oh,
it's like saying, hey, what do you think of this guy? And I think at that point he was like, actually, oh, like Steven's actually a good guy. Like, what do you think?
So you already passed that first level right there.
Yeah.
Right? Brother's approval.
I got really lucky with Ed just liking me off the bat like that. And so she had texted him back, saying like, "Oh, he's cute."
Oh snap!
Right? And that was in October of 2015, and she was actually just visiting for a couple days, and she's from Seattle, so she went back, and so I never got a chance to like actually meet her. Couple months later, she actually comes down to LA again to visit her brothers, and it was for her birthday. And so all the mutual like friends at Lacey, which is the live work area, they were all trying to like play matchmaker, right?
You had a squad, man.
We had a squad trying to put us together.
Awesome, dude. Okay.
And so she invited me to her birthday dinner because her brothers were also like asking her like, hey, or they weren't asking her to, they asked her, do you want to?
Okay.
And she's like, oh, okay, right? And so like now it's building up like, oh shit.
How are you feeling at this point? Seriously,
yeah. So I drove two people like who are all the mutual friends there, and they're like asking me like, oh my God, like, how do you feel? Like,
yeah, bro, you're processing all this on the go, right? On the fly.
And then right before that, I actually had just done a private catering event.
Oh my gosh.
And
you're pretty tired too. You're pretty.
So I was like just focused on that all day, and then I picked them up, and then we drove to the restaurant, and then right when they asked me, it kind of hits me. Then I start getting nervous, and like I was like,
the butterflies.
The butterflies. I like started going, stammering and stuff, and when we got introduced, it was kind of like awkward at first, right? Because we know we're like being pushed to each other, and obviously,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and obviously, I wanted it.
Yeah,
right?
that's what's so funny.
Yeah, but it's like I'm just very nervous.
Yeah.
But then we hit it off, and we spoke for a couple hours that night, and then the next day I'm like trying to figure out how do we see each other again, and so
because she's long distance.
Yeah, and so I get some of the mutual friends to set it up.
Squad,
like right. So shout out to Clara and Dan who like helped set this up, right? And so we get another group dinner going, and then they make us sit next to each other, right, facing each other, And so that night too, we hang out for a couple more hours. And the third day, her last day, I asked her out on a date.
Oh, wow.
And
third
then,
time's a charm.
Yeah.
Man.
So then I asked her out. I brought out all the big guns. I took her to the hotel where I used to work, SLS.
No doubt that connect.
And then all the
you pulled out all the strings.
I pulled out all the strings in my connections, and like obviously everyone knows me there, and they're like,
of course, yeah.
And later I found out she like obviously loved that, being able to see like how much people like actually remembered me,
your impact on them,
and cared for them, and they obviously loved me. I loved them, like working together, former coworkers. Because it could also have been like, oh hey, long time no see, but then it was actually like
there's that history that actually
history
mattered.
like I loved working there. I loved everyone working there, and she saw
and
that.
Showed,
and it showed that I was a very big people person. Like I have a big heart for people, and
attraction.
After that, we had lunch right there, and then I was supposed to drive her to the airport. So I drive her to the airport.
Oh, you saw her every day, bro. You maximized.
Yeah, I maximized it. Yeah.
Oh, respect. Yeah.
So I drove her to the airport. Lo and behold, her flight gets delayed.
Oh my Lord.
So now, exactly, that was literally God telling us to get closer, and we spent this is the Burbank Bob Hope Airport. We're on the roof of the parking lot watching the sunset.
My damn, this K-drama just is getting better and better.
We're just talking and talking and talking. I take her down again. Her flight gets delayed again. What? So we go back to my car, and we open up the sunroof, just staring. Now it's nighttime. We're just staring at the stars and just talking and talking, and that's when we really, really got to know each other on a really very deep level, because that was 6 hours of us just in the car waiting
Bob Hope Airport.
At Bob Hope Airport,
waiting for her damn
waiting for her flight.
Oh my God!
And finally, take her down. She leaves. We have our first kiss. Like, right.
I didn't hear this part off camera. But okay.
Right at the security. Where they check your bags and stuff. Like right before she goes in, I snuck a quick kiss in.
You're not the type to do like PDA. I feel like too, man.
that was my first kiss actually.
Yo.
Yeah, I'm a very shy guy.
Okay, drama, bro.
Yeah. Very, very.
Anyway, this is a beautiful love
story. Very hopeless romantic level. Yeah, K-drama.
A rom-com.
And so that 3-day period, we spent 19 hours together. 19 hours. And that really is what made us be intentional with our relationship. Like we knew we were in it for the long run after that. Like we knew, okay, hey, let's take this relationship seriously, because we want to, right? Otherwise, then what's the point? What's the point of casually dating? For us, the intention was marriage, right? And
from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And so we actually we're very quick about it. We got engaged 7.5 months into the relationship, or
that's
just
quick,
7
right?
months about, yeah. And then we got married almost a year later. And then the timing worked out where she moved down for, she got accepted at Loma Linda for physician assistant school. And so we got married. She started school. So right off the bat, it worked out with her moving down from Seattle.
I was going to say, because it was long distance technically at
first,
was
long distance for a little over a year. And then
that must have been not easy.
But then we also had a long distance weekend marriage, because Loma Linda's out towards Riverside.
So it didn't end there.
Yeah, so we had a weekend marriage where I would go every weekend, or she would come home on the weekends for 2 years about. And, only at the end of last year, right, she got a job here and she moved back home. Or she moved back home first. She had to take her exam to officially become certified, and then she could start looking for a job. So then she got a job at the end of last year here in Los Angeles. So
Dope.
It's been almost a year. We've been like full-time living together.
Wow. Thank you for mentioning intentional. So like, how has I know that word means a lot to you, and it's played a major role. So like, how have you been able to utilize that intentionality, just not in your life, but like your religion too? Because I know you struggle with, like most Christians, with being intentional, not just like in your worldly, duties and tasks and responsibilities, but like in your faith as well, right? And I'm sure a lot of Christians struggle with that too.
Yeah.
So, and myself
Definitely.
personally, like, myself included, but is there kind of, from your perspective, a way to kind of make that your advantage, right? Your benefit, right? Or take that intention out, like take that step to be intentional?
I think with Christianity, that's definitely what I lack, intentionality.
All of us, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously I can sort of blame it on, like, there's no hunger right now, like just with it being such a depressing time. But I think the key for intentionality is discipline, right? It's hard work, right? You have to do things repetitively every day, which, I don't read the Bible every day. I don't.
Sorry, I had to do that.
I don't, have this strict schedule of maybe reading the Bible or going through some sort of like study guide type thing.
Like what an ideal Christian, like you would think an ideal Christian would do, right?
Because at the end of the day, like, that shouldn't be viewed as negative.
Yeah.
Like, being disciplined about that is actually hard work.
Yeah, people don't really.
And it should be hard work, right? Like, it's a relationship. Like, if you don't put any work into any form of relationship, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so, that is 100% something I struggle with for sure.
Then, I mean, now going forward, right? We've journeyed through your life, and we've met your wife essentially through the podcast, and right now, right? I want to focus on the current again, where what is not only KOBUNGA's plan, right? Because I know that's one of your main focus, but what is Steven's plan for Steven, right? I mean, given KOBUNGA is a part of you, right? It's your baby, but like, what is your hopes and goals for yourself, right? That you would want to like pursue or wanted to, do, I guess, or is that KOBUNGA only, I guess?
I mean, I guess personally, it's really like refocusing on God.
Yeah.
Making sure that I'm also working hard to be a good husband, right? And, eventually be a good father.
Yep.
Like, and being a good father is also like the small things too, right? It's not only like reading up on books, like about like all the potential like illnesses your kids could have so you can anticipate it, right? It's not just that. Or like, but it also just means being a good husband, right? Just being a good human being.
Yeah.
And so I think that definitely stems from just intentionality with God.
Yeah.
And like knowing that I need to put in that hard work. And just for me, I guess, personally, it's just finding joy, right? Like doing this podcast, just slowly but surely being able to meet friends with all the restrictions coming up, and then, but yeah, also, like you said, exactly, like John and I, we're tied to the hip. Like we literally, KOBUNGA is our baby, right?
Yeah, man.
Together, and so as one of the parents of KOBUNGA, it's we're now seeing our baby slowly become a toddler, right? And so for us, it's like, how do we cultivate a great environment for the baby to grow? And for us, it's we have multiple locations planned. We have like our bottled sauces and some snacks coming up that we're trying to sell.
Yep.
And it's being a food company, right? KOBUNGA. We want to, at the end of the day, just I guess one sports analogy I can bring up is I just watched the Tua Tagovailoa documentary on ESPN.
Yep. How was that?
It was good. Like I never knew anything about him.
Yeah, just an Alabama star.
Yeah. But his grandfather was this chief and orator, very big storyteller in the community, and he sort of prophesized that the Tagovailoa name would be known throughout the world.
Oh.
And it's crazy. He literally spoke it
into existence. Yeah.
Into existence. And so, for us too, we want to bring KOBUNGA into the world, right? We want to share that gospel, as I was saying before. We want to have everybody know the KOBUNGA name.
Make it universal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You think of Korean food, Korean barbecue, Korean snacks, it's KOBUNGA.
I see what you mean. Mm-hmm. And that begins with you guys being able to maintain that perspective, right, of the long term, right? Because right now, patience is the game, right? Because no one knows when things are going to go back to normal, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately. Then I guess, could you provide us with a final message, I guess, that you could share with, or that you may feel on your heart that you just want to share and just sign us off, I guess, per se, to our audience? Maybe something that you're going through, something that you're planning or whatnot that you just want to sign us off on, or leave the audience with. Thoughts, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, originally when you had approached me about this podcast, I originally thought it was I'm going to be talking about how faith is interwoven with business.
Yeah.
I thought that's what the podcast was about.
Yeah.
So I was mentally preparing what do I talk about with business and how to be a Christian at work, right? I totally thought that's what when we had our first initial
brief and whatnot.
Brief phone call and what I thought about was and kind of what we've talked about before. It's for us, it's also do we put that John 3:16 on the drink cup, right? In and out, or on the shopping bag, Forever 21. But for us, I think for me, the final message is just being a Christian. Just to me, just means being a good person, and showing fruits of the Spirit to other people. So if you have humility and you're humble to your own employees, and you're just kind and forgiving, understanding, I think is a big one these days, right? You have to be understanding, with
consideration to the max,
right? And patience, right? Loving, all these qualities stem from us trying to be more like Jesus. And I think ultimately that's all we can do. And it's very hard to.
Of course.
But I think to all the listeners out there, it's if you can be more loving, kind, caring, forgiving, that's really all that I think, God really wants out of us is just to love each other and just be forgiving, patient, kind, everything to each other, right?
So back to the basics.
Back to the basics. Yeah, I like how you put that.
There's so much noise right now, man,
right?
If you know what I mean.
There's just so much noise right now. It's really hard to think about even the basics. It's so hard to be forgiving in this climate.
Yeah, man.
Obviously, it's a whole nother section with social justice right now. Whole nother topic.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to be understanding of the other opinion. But there's, two sides to a coin, right? And both sides can be right. Both sides can be wrong. But if you have the humility and the humbleness to be patient, to listen, and to love on your neighbors, right? Obviously, it's not going to solve the world, but you can...
But focus on yourself first, right? Focus on fixing
exactly.
yourself
You
first.
can focus on yourself,
And what you can control. I love that, what you said. If you could say that one more time about you can be right and the other party can be right as well.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, two people can be right at the same time.
That's so like
two people can be wrong at the same time
too as well, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a matter, again, understanding that and being considerate
exactly.
and applying those basic principles and whatnot, right?
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I know we could have gone into other things, but for now, until I have the pleasure of meeting you again and interviewing again, I think that'll sum it up here for now. If you don't mind, I end all the podcasts and whatnot with like a fire round of questions. So if we can get into that and just have you kind of relax a little bit and then just get into those questions, is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Okay. So start with the first question. So first question. The worst piece of advice you've ever received? Take your time, but just like any like first thought, there is no wrong answer, of course, but it's just it's all relative to you, you know?
I actually can't think of anything.
Yeah, sorry. I don't mean to like drop that like first one on you like that, but yeah.
That was a hard one.
Yeah, sorry. Like
I was expecting. I remember you saying like.
I saw the other question, but this one I really like. I asked almost all my.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because it's really a question that I'm curious of. You know what I mean? Too, that people don't really think about, because why would you want to think about that bad advice? But at the same time, we should learn from that, right? Bad advice, and sometimes that bad advice we do apply it to ourselves. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, nothing comes to mind, or.
Let's come back to that.
Let's
one.
come back to
think
okay.
about it more.
All right, then. Sorry, I'm sorry I started a little too hot, ladies and gentlemen, and Steven, please, forgive me. So then, next question is the best place you've ever like eaten at, or like just like dish that like, would you go to the ragu, or would it be something else?
A lot of people are so surprised when I tell them like what my last meal would be.
What?
It would actually be this fried chicken spot called Gus's.
Gus's fried chicken, bro. Is that the one in Burbank? And
yeah, there's Burbank. There's a couple locations.
It's really that good?
For me, I really really like it.
Okay, so how so? Like,
so it has the perfect level of spice, and I think they're one of few places that fry in peanut oil.
Oh, you're right.
And it makes a difference. But their secret like spice flavoring is amazing. The crispiness of the chicken, their coleslaw is just perfect. You know, it's like a little bit better version of KFC, right? And I love KFC because that's what I grew up on.
Let's knock on KFC. Yeah, we love KFC.
I love KFC, and I love KFC spice blend too of their original fried chicken.
Not hating on that.
But the skin is not crispy, right? But Gus's is. It's like perfect level of spice,
crunch, everything.
Everything. It's just well executed, and I love fried chicken. Right.
Okay.
So
and let me flip it then. The next question, right? Yeah. Now, okay, the worst thing that you've ever tried, and we're like, what the? If there was something.
I mean, no food I think has like ever been like so bad where I was like. So off-putted where I was like
want to spit it out, like
be like angry about it, you know. But then there are some like unique things I've tried that I would never eat again for sure. Like when I was in China, like you know we tried like fried scorpion, like fried bugs. To me, how
did that taste, bro? Like I've never tried that, but
I mean,
I've seen on TV.
Yeah, it's just at the end of the day, it's just like protein and like
really
in a crispy skin. So you know how like popcorn has that like outer shell sometimes.
Yeah, when you pop.
And then it like gets stuck in your teeth.
Oh, this is the
Think
worst
of the whole scorpion as that. Like it's a crispy like little like
kwaja.
Like it's not even a cracker. Cracker would make it sound tasty, right?
Yeah.
But like fried bugs are like. It's just like that, like, it's almost, you know how, like, the popcorn kernel, it almost feels like plastic?
Yeah.
Like a very thin plastic?
Yeah, thin layer.
That's what bugs taste like.
Oh.
And, like, obviously that's, like, a huge part of, like, a lot of food culture out in
Asia.
Southeast Asia and Asia in general.
Yeah. So it's a mental thing, right? The mental block.
But, yeah, and for me, just the texture is like, ugh.
No thank you, right?
Yeah. But then people would be very surprised and also find it very weird that I also don't enjoy mochi and rice cakes like duck.
No way,
Yeah.
bro. What are you doing for our New Year's and stuff?
No,
man?
I don't eat
I
I don't eat duck.
Really?
eat duck.
Why? Is it the texture or like what?
Yeah,
What
it's
about
that
it?
it's that gummy, tasteless texture, and it's like,
Interesting.
why am I chewing this? Why am I spending energy chewing this tasteless like thing?
Really?
Yeah.
So gushers or nothing? You never liked that back in the day, bro?
Well, I mean that has a ton of flavor.
Oh, because it has that juice, the sweetness.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
all
it's
that.
sugar.
But you're talking
Yeah.
about actual just duck by itself,
like yeah,
solo
mochi, just solo mochi,
no,
rice
like red
cakes.
bean or anything like that.
Yeah.
Right? Wow. Okay, I see.
Because after like even with like a rice cakes that's filled with like red bean,
Yeah.
you're eating it like at some point most of the red bean flavor goes away,
And it's just
and you're
mochi?
just chewing like
Gelatin?
pounded rice. Yeah,
Okay.
that
Alright.
that is people
That's
find very
interesting.
weird.
Yeah, because you're Korean. I like
Yeah,
not a lot of
yeah,
Koreans.
yeah.
Not. I think
yeah.
you're one of the
my
few.
grandma still looks at me weird when I refuse. Still to this day, you know.
Duck. I'll
Yeah.
noted. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The next question is, if you weren't running KOBUNGA, right, and cooking and doing all that, what would you be doing? You think?
That's oddly something like I've thought about before. Like some, you know,
Really?
that's a
Yeah, that's a thought that can come to your mind. Yeah.
well, that's like an icebreaker. A lot of people, you know, ask in like group, you know,
Sorry, I need
activities.
to note that. I need to ask that more. Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, it's a fun question,
Uh-huh.
right? And for me, I wanted to be a voice actor at one point in high school.
Oh.
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I can make a lot of weird noises, and like I can change my voice like really high or really low.
Can we get a little demo here then, or something?
Yeah, I
like,
could do like, you know, the scary like.
This is my scary voice.
Whoa.
But I can really.
Yeah, can we go opposite? Like, yeah.
It's like, hi, my name is Steven.
Guys, I promise
Yeah.
you, if you're seeing the video, I'm not doing like, there's no like mechanical.
Actually, I don't know. In high school, like this might be a user headphone warning, but like in high school during the during the like assemblies, I don't know if you remember. I used to do my witch laugh. Like I used to do
No, I
this
don't
like
remember that,
like
dude.
Jokerish like witch
the
crackling laugh
laugh?
like
All
during
right,
the
hold on.
like assemblies
For
when the
this-
lights turned off. I used to
Please.
do that all the time.
Please cue in 3, 2, 1. What the? Bro,
Yeah.
that is sick. I had no idea,
Yeah.
man. So you never flirted with that idea, though?
No,
Like,
I mean just like playing around in high school,
just
like
fun, just for your fun, own
Yeah.
enjoyment.
I know
That is-
like well, what started it off was actually to bring up a old friend,
sorry,
Mark Yu. He used to always do this like
Marco.
Duff Man voice, like
Oh
from
my
The Simpsons.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And then
You're right.
and then like I was like, oh, and then that was like super cool, and you
piqued
know
your
I would
interest.
love watching The Simpsons, and then I started getting into anime, right,
Yeah.
and then just like I always wanted to do voices.
That's so
but like yeah,
interesting. I had
I
no
used to always
idea.
do like Duff Man. Oh yeah, needs beer. What would Jesus do? You know, like so.
Oh my gosh, thank you, bro. That just made my day. Like, no
Yeah.
joke. I hope you have like, I hope eventually you get to a place where you can do that for fun, man, and get paid for it. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
dude. I
but
had no
it's just
idea.
yeah.
I didn't. I know. For me, I'm shocked at how like versatile your voice is, bro. And like,
What's interesting is growing up, I actually was super loud, and then over time, I quieted my voice because everyone would say I was loud.
You're right.
But
you used
I
to
can-
scream a lot in kickball, bro.
Yeah.
Like kicking that ball.
Yeah,
You
in
had the
elementary
Super Saiyan
school-
action going.
I can't believe you remember that. Like,
I
I
remember
was
that.
known as like the crazy kickballer.
Yeah,
when
because
we
you
used
did
to-
the Super Saiyan kicks, right?
Yeah,
You're
I used to-
screaming and running
Yeah,
at it, right?
and I think that came from when I did like Taekwondo back in the day.
Oh, makes sense.
Like they make you like
Taekwondo,
they make you
yeah.
yell and shout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To enforce that like that strength and
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that like courage or like that like
Yeah.
confidence. Yeah.
So like I can get when I And when I'm like drinking and I'm out with friends, I get really loud.
Oh, I can't wait to see that, man, one day.
Yeah,
I see what you mean. So it kind of you have that side of you. Right?
I have that side of me, like with my voice.
Even if you calmed it down over the years, I see what you mean. Oh,
Yeah.
that was awesome, by the way. Again, like those of you who don't believe me, I did not edit that crap. Like so. Oh my goodness, thank you, Steven. So last question, then, if we can go back to that, what is your biggest regret, or if I were to change it, advice that you would give to your younger self then?
So, I guess I'll answer biggest regret. I think biggest regret was in high school, college, not taking advantage of all the free time I had. Because once you start working, it's such a different level of energy that you have to bring. And so you're like, even a simple job will make you tired at the end of the day, right? And so like having energy over the weekend or like at night, I feel like, obviously exercise has a lot to do with it and like getting your energy levels up.
Yeah, but
I think just like an average American, like once you start working, your energy level is so different, right? So like in college, your energy is so different as well.
Of course.
Like you have more free time. You can explore and do a lot more stuff. So I think my biggest regret, especially in high school, was just playing so many video games. Like all I did was play video games with friends or just PlayStation at home by myself. And only thankfully, because I went to Italy and did the study abroad in Japan, I got that exposure, really started like wanting to do more.
Yeah.
But even in college in New York, there's a lot of times I spent in my dorm just watching Netflix.
I see what you mean.
That was also when Netflix was blowing up.
That was the beginning, right?
That's when they had DVD rentals.
Oh my gosh, it wasn't even the streaming platform yet,
I'd
bro.
be on that with the DVD rentals.
Word.
Like every single day
Just
I'd be flipping, receive a new DVD, sending one out, So like, I think time management was my biggest regret when I had time in college.
That luxury of time.
Yeah, especially college.
Yeah, man, we all take it for granted though, that free time.
Yeah.
Right.
I think advice for future self is, I think, personal care and also just keeping up like hard work. It's like make sure you are working hard. Like don't give that up. Don't sort of slack in a sense. But also don't work too hard where you're burning yourself out. Yeah.
So maintain, like enjoy your each and every day, right?
Yeah. Smell the roses.
Smell the
right?
roses, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, thank you. I think once again, I guess we'll end it on that. That was perfect.
Well, I gotta go and answer your first question.
My first question. Okay, we'll go back to that. What is the worst piece of advice you ever received?
I think you'll have to edit the silence for this one because I still gotta
think. No, it's okay.
Yeah, think about it.
Don't worry about it. I know it's not an easy question because a lot of my other two people, like guests as well, they were stumped too, kind of. But
that's not something you think about a lot. Like you'd probably rarely get asked like, "What's the best advice you've ever received?"
It's super common, so it's kind of like I really just wanted to flip the narrative in that aspect. So sorry for dropping the bomb, but I appreciate you actually taking the time to actually think about this one.
Yeah,
because it's something that, again, I just want us to learn from, man. You know what I mean? Because we're so commonly, seeking the best advice, but we're not, aware that we should be cautious of, bad advice too. And it does sometimes come from, unfortunately, people that, sometimes it does come from family members, friends, and whatnot.
I mean, I have one that's sort of bad and good.
Okay. You want to go with that one then?
Like long time ago in high school, like a pastor gave me this advice with this analogy.
Okay.
Love is like a cookie, and he was obviously talking about
Love is like
sex before marriage, right?
Okay.
So like love is like a cookie,
Bro,
right?
sorry, I have love cookie sex in my head right now. I'm so sorry. I don't know if the listeners are the same. But okay, yeah, go ahead.
But like if you have a cookie and every time you give someone a bite, like it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So same thing with love. The more love you give, right, the less you have to give to your final partner.
Oh, so kind of like love is like you have a level of energy, certain, and it's just
and like obviously with sex, every time you have sex with somebody,
it's taking that bite out of the cookie.
Yeah, taking that bite out of the cookie. But so like at the time, I was like, I took it to heart, right? As a young impressionable kid, I was like, oh, that's like really good advice.
Analogy,
I should save myself, right?
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, now that I reflect on that, it's actually really bad advice because you don't take into consideration God's love for you that also pours into someone else, right?
Which is unlimited. I see what you mean.
It should be like technically, God's love is that unlimited cookie.
Yeah.
Like you have unlimited love to give.
Yeah. It doesn't run out. Yeah.
So like in a sense, that was like
bad advice.
Yeah, bad advice at the end of the day.
Because he again limited your point of view of God's love in that aspect, right? And at a young age, we're like a sponge. We're literally taking anything that sounds like,
Yeah, because at the same time, you're not taking into consideration compassion, understanding, forgiveness, right?
The things that all fall under love too, that category.
Exactly.
Ultimately.
Exactly. So yeah, like your cookie is actually, you have an unlimited bag of cookies to give out.
If we're truly speaking in faith,
If we're truly speaking in faith.
Okay, thank you for choosing that one. That was amazing because I love that it has a good and a bad. You know what I mean? Which is often most times the case as well. It's a matter of perspective again. All right, well, that will sum up this episode of the GODSEND Podcast. If you want to add your plugins, please feel free to how people can reach you or your restaurant and whatnot.
Yeah, KOBUNGA.com. KOBUNGA stands for Korean Bulgogi and Kalbi.
Oof.
We're located at the USC. You can go to KOBUNGA.com, check us out, check out our story, order online. Right,
takeout is available, right?
And delivery as well.
And be on the lookout for the products as well, right? You guys got some snacks and some goodies coming out, right? With the jerky and all that. Can't wait for that. So thank you again, Steven, for your time. Really, it was a pleasure. Awesome reconnecting with you, bro. And to the guests, to our audience as well. Thank you for your time. Again, this is the GODSEND Podcast. I'm your host, Raymond Chi. And until next time, take care and God bless. Peace.